For decades, the kingdom of Kush was dismissed by archaeologists. It was believed that the Egyptians were the reason for all of the Kushites' culture. Yet a new excavation of a royal tomb underneath a Nubian pyramid might just find the truth about how great these ancient people once were. However, the excavation isn't simple. The archaeologists will have to overcome a massive aquatic issue to proceed through the chambers. Today we're going to tell you what these archaeologists have found and their potential monetary value. We'll also give you some history on the region and the impact it's had to this day. So, let's get started. In 2018, Pierce Paul Kriesman headlined a new excavation of a site in Sudan. The area was once prominent during the Kingdom of Ancient Nubia, which is now based in modern-day Sudan. This excavation site is known as Nuri. It was an ancient necropolis for the former capital of Napata. Altogether, there are around 20 pyramids in Nuri for various kings and queens that once ruled the Kingdom of Kush. The tombs for the royalty weren't placed within the pyramids, which is the case for the rulers of ancient Egypt. Instead, the tombs and chambers are directly below the stone monuments. However, in recent years, rising underground water has flooded many of the tombs, the cause of which is believed to be due to natural and human-caused climate change. The water can erode some of the amazing treasures and writing within the chambers of the tomb, but it can also stop grave robbers from entering and stealing from the royal remains. Since Kriesman is a trained underwater archaeologist, he's well educated to deal with the H2O problem. The tomb that caught Kriesman's eye belongs to the pharaoh Nestasen, who ruled between 335 BCE to 315 BCE. The excavation was partly funded by National Geographic. Kriesman and his team began digging out the staircase to Nestasen's tomb during 2018 and into 2019. By the time they reached the entrance, they realized the tombs didn't just have a bit of water within, they were nearly completely submerged. The team first secured the entrances to make sure the doorways didn't collapse. Then they could examine the chambers safely. The first chamber had already been partly excavated in the past. More on that later. Kriesman's team even used discarded Red Bull cans to help secure the safety line, as the cans would bob on the water's surface. The excavation team needed to use full diving equipment in order to brave the chambers safely. However, with every moment by the divers, sediment from the ground would mix in with the water and thus make it hard to see the surrounding area. Using as many light sources as possible in the dark chambers eased that issue slightly. The team eventually went through the first, then the second, and then the third, and then the final chamber of Nestasen's tomb. There, they found a site rarely seen in archaeology findings within ancient pyramids. But before we get into that, let's give you some information on what the Kingdom of Kush was. From 1070 BCE to 350 CE, the Kingdom of Kush was based in ancient Nubia, which was located in the Sudanese and southern Egyptian Nile Valley. The Kush became the pharaohs of Egypt in the 25th dynasty, the most famous of which was Taharka. He was mentioned in the Old Testament for helping to defend Jerusalem from attack. After the Nubian pharaohs lost power, they retreated from Egypt and arrived at the southern Kushite capital of Meroe. For a while, the new kingdom thrived as a port city that specialized in trading. Egypt, on the other hand, was consistently attacked by various forces. However, the Kushites were in isolation, so attacks by other forces were rare. However, once Egypt was absorbed by the Roman Empire and dominated trading in the area, Meroe was abandoned by the remaining citizens. As the entrance to the tomb is so narrow, it wasn't possible for Kriesman and his team to wear traditional scuba gear with a tank on their back. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to move and potentially get stuck as they explore the ruins, which is a terrifying thought. So they had to use surface-supplied diving equipment instead. This means that the diver is connected to an air compressor on land that pumps breathable air through a long hose into the diver's regulator. The air compressor that the excavation team used required petrol in order to work. The divers did have a small tank of air on their back, no bigger than a can of hairspray, just in case they're cut off from the long hose. This could happen if the tomb itself or the entrance caves in. For this type of excavation, the team would need an air compressor that can constantly run over long stretches of time, as well as provide air for multiple people at the same time. A compressor that does this type of job can be as much as $33,685. The hose used by the team was 150 feet long. This length of hose can cost as much as $1,700. A regulator kit with all sorts of beneficial accessories can be as much as $1,589. But if you want to be fancy and have a full face mask with a regulator built in, then you're looking at a hefty fee of $4,433. George Andrew Reisner was an American archaeologist that specialized in Egypt, Nubia, and Palestine. He went to the same area that Kriesman is currently involved with. Reisner was there between the years 1907 to 1909. Reisner excavated the tomb of the legendary pharaoh Taharka. On top of this, Reisner mapped Nuri's funeral monuments, which includes 80 royal burials. However, Reisner discovered that many of the tombs he encountered were already filled with groundwater, making the excavation a lot harder, especially back then. Reisner also examined Nastassen's tomb, the same one Kriesman is exploring. Kriesman's team have seen the attempted excavation within the first chamber. However, Reisner never published his results. It took an associate years later to put together the notes and publish them. Reisner wrongfully wrote off the Kingdom of Kush as racially inferior to the Egyptians. He instead believed the accomplishments of the Kush were an inheritance from the Egyptians. As we've seen from research, that was definitely not the case. It's easy to think that underwater archaeology is a niche area of study that happens rarely. However, it's actually fairly common. One example took place in 1999. Whilst divers were exploring 36 feet below the Solent, an area of sea between England and the Isle of Wight, a lobster caught their eyes. It was throwing ancient worked flint tools from its burrow. On further inspection with archaeologists, they discovered the remains of an 80,000-year-old human settlement that's now been claimed by the sea. It's called Boldnor Cliff. One of the key pieces in an archaeologist isn't the whip and hat that Indiana Jones uses. Instead, a permit is vital. In order to get a permit for digging up ancient sites in Nuri, you need to get in touch with Sudan's National Corporation for Antiquities and Museums, or the NCAM for short. During the Kriesman excavation, there was a representative from NCAM watching the proceedings to make sure the task was done correctly. On top of securing a permit, specifically to be able to do some underwater archaeology safely, there are a number of courses that you need to take. The cost of training in underwater archaeology varies online. One course will take you to Pompeii in Italy to study ruins that have been claimed by the sea. It'll set you back around $2,000. In order to go on such courses, you'll also need to be PADI certified in scuba diving. The combined open water and advanced open water courses can cost around $1,050. In Egypt, if you find a rare ancient item and attempt to take it out of the country without the proper authority, then you're looking at a hefty punishment. Firstly, you'll be punished by, quote, intensive imprisonment for a period of time. You'll also get a fine of no less than 100,000 Egyptian pounds, around $6,300, and no more than 1 million Egyptian pounds, roughly $63,000. On top of this, all the items and equipment, including machinery and cars used in the illegal excavation, are confiscated by the government. As of the time this video is being put together, the excavation of Nastassen's tomb has been paused at the moment. However, the team has high hopes of returning in the near future in order to properly access the tomb and secure more knowledge on humanity's ancient past. As we mentioned earlier, the team did discover some valuable pieces of information in their brief time. Within Nuri, even though the tombs are flooded with water, the team have so far seen a couple of artifacts. After all, the water works as a deterrent against would-be grave robbers. One of the items found are a number of Shabti dolls, also known as Ushabti. These dolls were created as company for the person buried as they transition into the afterlife. They would aid the person in acting as servants. It's actually possible to purchase genuine Shabti dolls online from ancient Egypt. So if you want to pick up a minion of your own for the next life, it can cost between $130 to $1,700 per doll online. Yet this is perhaps the most amazing discovery. After reaching the third and final chamber in Nastassen's tomb, Kriesman stumbled upon the royal sarcophagus of Nastassen, which seems to be undisturbed for around 2,300 years. In ancient Egypt, a sarcophagus was made from stone and often acted like an outer shell. Inside, there would usually be a coffin containing the remains. As of yet, Nastassen's sarcophagus hasn't been opened. At least, that's what it appears at the moment. It's very rare for this to happen, as the tombs of ancient royalty were often looted for treasure and mementos over the centuries. With all the water and the lack of space, removing the massive sarcophagus at this time is very difficult. Since the sarcophagus will often have remains within, it's not possible to purchase an authentic ancient Egyptian one. After all, they're incredibly valuable for museums in order to study. But you can pick up a replica of King Tutankhamun's sarcophagus as a decoration around your house, all for $1,650. It will definitely attract the attention of your guests. The actual sarcophagus of King Tutankhamun is said to have contained 3 coffins, one of which was covered in thick, solid gold. It's believed this golden coffin is worth over $1,200,000. After looking through the chambers and pausing the excavation, a remaining army of archaeologists found the remains of a Christian cemetery nearby. After looking through the area, they came across a piece of Greek stele. These were created for a number of reasons. They were used as markers for past battles, as a sort of ancient tombstone, as well as marking property boundaries. Since it was found at a cemetery, it's likely this is of the tombstone variety. It's actually possible to purchase genuine Greek stele if you so desire. In 2018, the auction house Sotheby's in London, England, sold a fragment of a Greek stele that was made between 375 BCE to 350 BCE. It was sold for £298,000, or nearly $387,000. However, a more complete Greek stele that was made in the 4th century was sold by Sotheby's in New York during 2012. It went for an astonishing $902,500. And that's it! Do we have any underwater archaeologists watching? If so, please tell us the sites you've explored in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. All of those actions really help us out. Finally, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.